What's up, guys? I wanted to have a discussion, one of those weird discussion videos. We haven't done one in a while, so I thought, it'd be a really nice time to fit one in right after an update. And it's something that they chose really not to change, and I think that there was a really big upset that would have been a great thing that they could have went into 2021 with a brand new way of doing things. And that is, of course, as you guys already know in the title, but it's weird to talk, knowing what you're going to title the video. But it's going to be the gear system. The gear system, I think, has more issues in it than they led on to believe when they said that, the whole thing about Awakening. I think it's even worse than just that. But this is not really a rag video, more of like a slight rant, but I do want to know what your guys' opinion is on this subject. So without further ado, skidabaricky dicky do. Let's get into it. Alright, like I said, I just wanted to kind of talk about gear. Now, the issue that most people have with gear, at least what's going on right now, is like, let's say you make a mistake, right? So the biggest thing right now, like I will show you guys right here, is that my weapon here, who is a support, who has HP scaling things, is all blue, which means she has additional defense, which means absolutely nothing. If I wanted to unawaken the girl and bring her back to red, I would take all this stuff off. I would lose out on a bunch of stuff. It would be pretty much a big detriment. Like, it'd be pretty much terrible for me to do that. My best option at this point would be to change her over to red and then have it that she's blue-red, pretty much. But that's not even the worst of it. But that is one of the issues, is that if you did want to change it up, if FC, let's say, if it gets another thing, or you want to just adapt to the meta, maybe all of a sudden a new character comes out and it literally says if your HP is over 10,000, you lose 50% of HP in the beginning. Something stupid, doesn't matter. You can't really adjust to anything. Not like the game changes that frequently or that fast or that drastic, but you can't really change anything. And that's one of the bigger issues I think about Awakening, is that you can't, once you do it, you're done. You can't really, there's nothing more to it. And that's going to lead me into my actual big discussion, the thing that I really want to talk to you guys about. And this actually has nothing more to do. I actually was going to think about talking about this outside of Exos, but just a gacha game issue that I really have is that eventually the gacha games and Exos, because I'm saying it in this game, eventually they get to the point where it's just stats. And I think that that is inherently shit. And the reason why is because when things just become down to stats, it's just come down to the people that are likely investing into the game more, because they have more chance to roll the RNG wheel. They have more chances to do a lot of the stuff that just accrue stats. It doesn't really add to the strategy of anything, because if the strategy becomes stats, then there is no strategy. The strategy is just go get more stats. So in retrospect, let's take Frankie here, since he's here and he's in his devilish outfit. Yes, baby. If you just have more defense, the more defense that he has, the better he is as a character. And that's cool, I guess. But also, if someone, if I go into a fight, especially if we're talking PvP, if I go into a fight and the other people have more defense than I do, then my character is just pretty much useless. Very specific to this game. Same thing if there was an HP threshold or attack threshold. Those are just purely based on stats, and since they are not in this game retroactive, if that's the correct term, it just makes it doo-doo. I've always suggested in the beginning, which is irrespective of the gear issue, is that the stats or some of the passives in the game should work retroactively. So they should work that Rachel, if we're just using him as an example, he pushed his heart on you if his attack is higher than his enemies. But if, let's say, if you wanted to negate his passive or work around it, you could lower his attack mid-fight and then his dishearten would go away. It's almost as if that would really happen in a real battle. Let's say if this guy is frightening you and then you realize you lower his attack or you make him feel like less of a man, then you're not disheartened. If anything, you're encouraged. You feel better about yourself or something like that. I always thought that that would have been a great way, because it would have added strategy to the game. Instead of it just being purely based on stats, then you could at least have a way to, well, if there is a mist of the fight, I could possibly bring in an attack buffer like FC Tantalo, or there's a bunch of Morris, also Yao also burst attack. Then you have some really cool way to kind of to have some different variety. But since it's not based on that, all you have to do is worry about building up Rachel as much as you can, and if you don't get it off in the beginning of the fight, then I guess you just lose. Well, not lose, but you don't get the point of you bringing in the character, which kind of sucks. There's no in-term strategy. There's no initial strategy to do because it's just based on stats. Now, another thing that was really interesting about this game is that they did have something that was unique, especially when we're talking about the gear system. I'll go back to Lepin. Where are you, baby girl? She actually, when I awakened her, when you were all blue, remember being all blue meant you had more block. So if I were to go, I think, to my Zion, I think. Oh, I can use Iris as an example here. As you guys can see, the old gear sets versus the new ones. Now, the new gear set, oh, not new, sorry, you guys should know, the awakening sets versus the other one. Now, these first equipment sets were actually somewhat unique. Red was fire damage reduction, you had block, which is a stat, dodge is a stat, but status effect immunity was pretty cool, getting a barrier, and then also a really cool one was healing off the damage that you dealt. I thought that that was very unique, and I thought that at the very least when you awakened, you were going to get more of that. So there was going to be, if you awaken blue, you were going to get a lot of block, and that would have been really good. Red, more damage reduction, or possibly something completely different, like this is damage reduction, and then you get an additional damage reduction versus AoE moves or something of that nature. Machine could have been status effect immunity plus debuff immunity, and then the more you got, you have immunity, and you can have a quote-unquote fully immune unit. This is stuff that you see in other games where they do have more unique gear sets, like immunity, like multiple attacks, or another basic attack, or another turn. Even though I hate that in concept in Summoner's War, that you get a free turn essentially through the Violent Runes proc, but it still gave it that you were sacrificing a lot of other things in order to do that. They also have the same thing, attack, speed, defense as a gear set. But why, I feel like this game, it just comes down, especially when you awaken, and when you do not awaken, you're just heavily punished. One of the best units that who I wish I was going to show that kind of gets screwed over by that is Zion. Where is he? He's hiding. There he is. His FC passive is the more block that he has, he gives AoE block to his people that takes up like one instance of damage, one hit, but still you can't like utilize him because you'd have to awaken him and then you would lose the whole block passive from the gear set. I do think that there would be, if they were to go with Awakening 2, if they even decide to do that in this game, right? I hope that they start to bring in more variety as far as what you can do with the gear. I think that it's just very lazy, and this is not an issue that's specific to Exos, and I hope you guys know that I play other games and I do follow some other games. It's an issue that's in a lot of games, that when it just comes down to, well, after a while you just want to have more HP to survive, have more attack to burst out the character, have more speed so you can go first to do this buff or whatever like that. Usually speed is the issue in a lot of these games, but as you know, in Exos, speed is not a big thing. It is kind of, sort of, but you know, it's not, you can't really build speed in this game. You kind of have to luck out with gear, a lot of rerolls, a lot of gear grinding in order to get that. And then I think, what is it, the magical enhancement, I think, or something like that. This stupid thing where you see this thing where you can keep special forging, I think it is, or maybe it is one of the two, and then you can actually get more attack speed or a stat, and then you would use that additional stat to start to grow your thing. But it just takes way too long. It's just a weird investment thing that you have to do into this, and it's very, very late game. But again, it's just adding stats. You're hoping to get one of these additional stats, and if they keep adding stuff like this into the game, I feel like then the game is going to become really, really boring. And I'm not talking about like, oh, there's a content drought, but if your only goal is to just simply stack HP and attack and defense if the character revolves around it, then that's just whack. That's just so trash. Because I don't know, I can't figure out a more exquisite way of saying it. It just doesn't seem as fun. And I think that having weird, quirky things like the second time you get hit, you gain damage immunity or something like that, or start the fight off with damage immunity, or, you know, weird stuff that you can put in gear sets. And if not just gear sets, you can, yes, put it into a character's passives, which they have been doing. The passives are pretty unique in this game. There's some really weird stuff that the characters can do, and it really makes you want to have that character. But there's not enough stuff that is based into the game that you can bring in a character that literally has no place in the meta, but through this gear set, they're somewhat viable. Same thing with Zion is somewhat viable with the base full blue set because of the block. You know, you could maybe possibly put him in there and throw somebody off. There's also no RTA, so I guess this, you know, I feel like I'm talking up a wall, but it is what it is. I do think that that's some really cool things, and I would love to know what you guys would think, or what other suggestions would you guys want as far as like fixing the gear set, or do you think the gear set, the way that the gear works in this game, is completely fine? I think just on the way the Awakening works, I think it isn't. I do think that the complaint as far as like you're losing everything, you're sacrificing gear to put on more gear, and the more gear, the R1 gear that you got, I don't know if you guys know it, like there's no additional thing that's in it. Like there's no additional, how do I put it? You don't, when you sell it, it doesn't give you anything bigger or anything like that. It's literally just copy and pasted gear that like it's done so badly. It's like, it's so weird that they even thought that that was a good idea. But I would love for them to come to this eventually. I'm not thinking that it's like immediate there. I think that there are worse things in the game, but I do think that eventually they need to come back and say, hey, what are we doing with the gear system? How do people come into this game and make a character the way that they want it? Not the way that they have to, because that's kind of whack. Usually I think you want to have it that, oh man, maybe I want to go a dodge build. Maybe I want to make my character full dodge, a character that has nothing to do with dodge, like a battery, no dodge at all, but I want to make her super dodgy or something like that. Like, even if you are gonna allow us to manipulate stats, really allow us to manipulate them, really allow us to go high HP or high attack or something like that, and sacrifice something else in order to get those means. You can't even really go crit in this game, or crit damage. You really can't even go hit to make sure that you always hit, no matter if someone has, if you even increased hit, that you're always hit, because oh, I built my blah 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 so they can always hit. They have the highest hit ever. I feel like in other games, even in Epic 7, Summoners War, at least they can do that with the gear. I feel like we do not have the ability to, and maybe because I don't invest too much time into it or much resources into it, maybe I'm not at that point. But from what I can see, it would be a crazy uphill battle to customize a unit to your liking. Anyway, that's MFO. YFO's in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel. And that's gonna be it for me. Sorry there's no new content right now, so I'm just wanted to do this while I'm still trying to work how to fix my capture card. Anywho, like, comment, subscribe, and just remember that every day is the Kashino lucky day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.